Make sure that
this time. And now we'll start the fill recording.
Oh no, the fill recording. Oh, here we go.
At least then it gives people time to come in and understand what's happening before we get started proper.
Yell racial slurs and obscenities at the top of their lungs.
Well, if you're going to, now's the time, because we're officially live.
Oh. No, we probably shouldn't fucking do that.
Well, let's save that one for the 7th podcast. I feel like that's a real...
Lucky number 11 over here. All right, I'm good. Yeah, I know, weird pull, but I've got them. We've got them all over the place. Why don't you tell us? Why don't you hit us with that TrueSwords.com endorsement you're doing?
All right, so I've never eaten at this Zaxby's place that you've...
Yeah, you totally have. I've bought you Zaxby's before.
You have?
Yeah. You were completely decimated tired. Mercilessly tired, beyond a shadow of a doubt. And I remember it was either Yakuza or it was Persona.
That was Zaxby's?
Yeah.
Oh, I like Zaxby's then.
Yeah.
Never mind.
There you go.
Then it already gets the glowing endorsement. Because I ate it during Yakuza and or Persona.
Either way.
By association, it's a 10 out of 10 best of 2017 dish right here.
Yeah. Anyways, hey, ladies and gentlemen, as you are walking into the stream, welcome to episode 3 of Not Another Podcast. What are you doing?
I'm okay.
The title is Delete the VOD, Delete the Evidence. What are you I don't know if you're choking or if there's something worse going on.
Don't pull back the curtain, Phil.
It's too, dude.
We're
this
perfect
is
gods amongst men. We don't.
This entire podcast is peering through the veil the entire fucking time. It's not even like how many times we have to bring up the sense of lack of professionalism. Every single time.
Yeah.
Like that one time we released a Monster Hunter hype video literally a week after it was already released.
It was a good video, though.
It was a good video. If you guys haven't seen that video, you should go watch it. Anyways, so tonight, don't really have... I thought at the time we were going to have that many puns, but I've got a friend here that's not Maxx. He's a good friend to have. But I got another friend that some of you on the stream may or may not know. We ended up playing a lot of Destiny 2 together. And for those of you who are going to be listening on YouTube, you will definitely not know this man because I don't know half of you people subscribe to me on YouTube right now.
Yeah.
This is my boy Mike. Mike, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what you do. What is your job? Your profession, as it were.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. My name's Michael. I'm a producer in the video game industry. I make shit happen. I'm not the guy that goes in and codes things or spends hours making some model look dope. I'm the guy who sits behind the curtain and says, there's a schedule and there are a couple of puzzle pieces, and that's pretty much what I do. I'm the WD-40 of making a bunch of gears turn.
That's such a good way to describe being a producer.
Yeah.
That is so good.
The other thing is that you told me that you've actually, with your game specifically, you've dealt specifically with... microtransactions?
Controllers? What?
Well, he also worked on the controls for his game for the PS4, which is super important. But we got a couple of topics going on tonight that I want to talk about. I want to talk about just all the general craziness that's been going on with Twitch as of late and YouTube and just, creator influence and all sorts of stuff like that. And then I kind of wanted to bring it over to a little fun back and forth between me and Michael, because me and Michael obviously have very different, well, I don't want to say super different, but he actually has a clue as to what he's talking about when it comes to the actual monetization game of the video games industry. Whereas I'm just a retrograde consumer. I'm just going to always be
loud one, but yeah,
very loud one. I'm always going to be very much about the consumers. So I figured we could talk something about that, and then we also actually got super hard confirmation on things like the Sea of Thieves stuff, and then the Blaze Blue cross tag battle.
The cross tag debacle. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But before we open the can of worms that may potentially lead us down an absolute negative rabbit hole, let's start off with a couple of really amazing things that happened. Well, one absolutely amazing thing, and that's every time I always tell myself, me and every single person that I know, every time we say we're off the ride, Nomura releases a trailer and we're immediately back on the fucking ride. Kingdom Hearts 3 looks fucking phenomenal.
I think that this joke that Kingdom Hearts 3 will eventually come out is getting less and less funny as the years go on. And the fact that that trailer still said coming 2018, if I ever hold that game in my hands, I don't know if I would even play it.
We're in a post Persona 5 world, man. Like anything is. We're in a post Yakuza 6 is being
But here's the thing,
localized
is, like,
world.
Persona. I was waiting for Persona 5 for 5, 6 years, like a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I've been waiting for Kingdom Hearts 3 since middle school. This is my like everyone else is like, yeah, dude. I've been waiting for Half-Life 3 or even Final Fantasy 15 was around this, not as long, but still pretty fucking long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's been about 13 to 15 years since Kingdom Hearts 2 came out,
Well,
and that's when I thought I was getting
2005, right?
Kingdom Hearts 2 dropped 2005. I think me and Popcorn were talking about it.
Or is it 5?
It's one of those.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a while. So every time a trailer comes out, I'm happy I get to see more of it, but it almost just twists the knife a little more. It's like, yeah, we're showing you stuff, but really this is just a bunch of CG and smoke and mirrors, and it's not coming out.
See, but
it looks really good.
Oh man, and I just want if someone sees a playable demo, even if it's behind closed doors, if there is a motherfucker with a controller sitting in front of everybody, and someone can attest to that,
it's real.
It's real. That's what I want. We still haven't gotten any sort of playable build.
Point 2. Kingdom Hearts Point 2, the fucking Aqua thing.
Well, that's not.
It was supposed to be the prologue.
But that doesn't fucking count.
Yeah.
That's
But
that's a hard pull. I get what you're saying,
Fair.
but that I don't know if that's entirely the right mindset. But whatever. Mike, are you a Kingdom Hearts fan at all?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that I love that it exists. No, in the sense that I've never actually spent a lot of time playing it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you absolute piece of shit. You have no excuse anymore. All the games are literally on PS4. And that's the thing. That's if it was 2.5 years ago, before the inception of the collection, I was like, oh yeah, no, it makes complete sense that people don't know or don't play Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
It makes absolute sense. Now that almost the entire world owns a fucking PS4 and all games are on that one disc, I think everybody owes it to themselves to give it a shot.
That's why I'm so scared of it, actually coming out. It's actually gonna happen. They set it up. They set up the spike.
They did.
But Nomura's over there twiddling his thumbs he's not. That dude thinks too big.
I have
That's
it on very good authority that.
Really?
Yeah.
Best friends?
Well, a good friend of mine, you remember him, Mr. Mike. Of course you remember him. It's Mr. Grantham. Came up and actually got in contact with a Square Enix representative at a event that I will not call out for the sake of not wanting to put everyone under fucking blast. But the talk of the town is how much of a diva Nomura has been for the past 2.5 years, consistently putting his hand and meddling in absolutely everything. And it's I get it. I understand why it's happening, and man, that man is ambitious, and I love that about him. But someone's got to pump the fucking brakes on Nomura every now and then. And I think what's going on is that that Unreal Engine shift was that pump the fucking brakes, because Luminous is obviously not working. If Luminous barely works for 15,
yeah,
we're gonna need to put you on an actual engine that works this time. And I think that that for a lot of people, the overreach was probably a little much because they had to go back and redo a bunch of shit. I think that was the smartest move they ever made, because that means that game's actually going to fucking happen at some point.
And it is a shame because Final Fantasy 15 today is still probably one of the prettiest games.
Mm-hmm.
The Luminous engine right next to the Fox engine, still those games look fantastic.
Oh my god, the
They're probably
PC
best-looking
version,
games.
the benchmark alone on I have a 1080. And my fucking system still can barely run that game. Probably because it's terribly optimized. But, I mean, it still looks brilliant. That game running at, actually 60 frames is insane.
Can you imagine it running at 120?
Beautiful.
Just reach out and touch it.
Oh, man. And then I can't be mad at him, because every time I'm sitting there, I want to talk about, how Nomura needs to stop adding so much shit. You look at that game, you look at the scale, you look at the amount of action happening on screen, the just crazy amounts of like the new command style system that's obviously command style system from lifted from Birth by Sleep. And it's all world relative, and like everyone in the world actually is in your party now, and the environments are just so large that you can literally jump off of a skyscraper into another fucking batch of enemies. Insane. That game is gonna be so fucking phenomenal.
So to kind of transfer it over to just more on the technical side of things, Mike, I actually have a question for you. As a producer, I imagine a large part of your job is just making sure that the game's moving along. As you said, scheduling and stuff like that's a big part of what you do. At what point do you feel like it's important to kind of take your director and like kind of not
when do you pick him up by the
contract this-
scruff and tell him to fucking back up a little bit?
like at what point does that become something that you feel you need to do if you ever had to?
Yeah, so just to start off, I probably should have said this at the really beginning, but all opinions and anything that I say is totally of my own and not representative of anything.
Oh yeah, no, and to clarify for you, just for your own thing, if there's anything that you don't want to have an opinion on, because we're not, I don't want to say we're like a no holds barred podcast, but we have opinions and we're not afraid to share them. If there's nothing that you don't want to like remark on, go right ahead, like that's no problem. So, but. Not to this question. You have to answer this question completely truthfully. Now, don't go.
No, it's actually pretty straightforward, and the way you do it is one. It really involves a little bit of legwork on production in terms of getting a good idea about the estimations of the work that you're committing to, and showing literally in numbers how much time and creating literally just simple graphs that show, hey, look, this is how much your new feature is costing us as a company. Oh, look, here's the estimated time. We've just added 10,000 hours of work set over the next 6 months. Congratulations, your new feature is going to cost us, however much amount of money. So, I mean, it's actually pretty straightforward in terms of what you would tell a director. And unfortunately, it's not really necessarily up to, I mean, it really depends on the company you're at, but it's not generally up to production to decide the direction unless there's just a hard call that needs to be made. But ideally, you still don't want to stray away from what the game's supposed to be. Usually, you need the guy who's spending the money to understand what the costs are, and then for him or her to make a call.
Yeah,
Provide
absolutely.
evidence,
I remember I was talking a lot about in the past when I hit you up with some of my game ideas, the idea of feasibility in the space of actual game development, and like when you take a core concept and you're just like, okay, how can we build upon this? How can we like add more to that? And where in the grand scheme of things, and can we like create an actual timeline that we can keep going back and forth on? And I feel like what you brought up is kind of like you guys use milestones like pretty frequently, I'm sure.
Yeah, we have in the past.
Okay, but I think that's just. It's always weird because I feel like in a smaller studio, that's a problem. That's not necessarily a problem that you would necessarily like jump into. Is that over imaginative, overreactive director, and I also know that like just Japanese game development in general is always a bit more. It leads more towards the side of Japanese business entirely, wherein seniority almost always fucking like trumps every decision. It doesn't matter if your position is technically higher, if the motherfucker's older than you and has been on the ground in the muck longer than you have, more often than not, the team's gonna listen to him. So I feel like with like a Nomura type, it'd be kind of hard to try to be like, yeah, that's gonna probably maybe cost $50,000 with that one small idea you want to add. But
it's like, you want to make it a musical? You probably shouldn't.
Oh man, we always come back to it, and it's like if he had just explained and didn't just say, I watched Les Miserables and that's what I want my game to be.
I want Final Fantasy to be High School Musical.
No. Oh my god.
But Kingdom Hearts, aside from just all that stuff, just those trailers alone, we got the new song, and it's gonna take a while for it to hit as hard as like Simple and Clean does. But
Yeah.
I thought it was all right. I need to hear the whole thing.
Someone is saying that they might have showed like the slower version. like they do in every other Kingdom Hearts. Like there's a slow version, there's
and then there's
like an actual impactful version.
the
I'm
upbeat
hoping
version, the Boing Doop remix.
No,
that
don't you
everyone-
hit me with that boing do bullshit. Oh my god. In my heart of hearts, I am hoping that Utada Hikaru has the button and is ready to leak as much fucking shit as possible just to get the song out. Like there's more to the trailer that we haven't seen, and
Yeah.
she has it sitting in an iTunes
full
cloud
music-
somewhere,
oh my God.
and she's just ready. She even said on her Twitter, like, "This game better come out soon. I'm gonna be real anxious." I'm like, yo, what does she know?
Yo.
Give me more. I'm so fucking ready for this game to
I'm
be
so
out.
ready, especially like it's just story wise. I was afraid they weren't actually going to tie everything up, but the stuff they're bringing back, like fucking Marluxia and Vanitas, they should be fucking gone, but they're back, and like I just hope. I want it to end. I want the roller coaster. I love it. I want it to stop.
I want to be.
I love
over.
Evangelion. I want 4.0
It's
I
not
want
gonna
this journey. I like
Otto's
things to end.
making that
That's it.
Godzilla money too much, man. He is enjoying where he's at right now. You know, I feel like that's a like a common problem where it's like, as a creator, if you reach a point where it's like, that's it. I did the thing I wanted to do. Now I can drop the other thing I did to get there.
Yeah.
So, and I'm hoping that this is what like Nomura's is. Nomura's is Kingdom Hearts. I did the thing so that I can go make my magnum opus, The World Ends With You 2. That's what I want. Fuck all of you. I want that game. That game's gonna be way fucking better.
No.
Yes, it is.
No, you're not getting that.
All right, fine.
You calm down.
But yeah, it seems like everybody's been like, you were telling me a little earlier, our little geek easy, as it were,
Oh.
is having themselves a merry old bash for Kingdom Hearts, and it's not even anywhere near. We don't even have a feasible fucking date, and people are like, "Hey, 2018! It could literally be the 31st, and it's still
Said,
2018."
Come one, come all. We're all gonna drink in a big mosh pit and listen to Passion and like.
How many Bing Doop remixes of fucking
dude.
Sanctuary could there possibly be?
None. Thank God.
I absolutely
it's
disagree.
Just simple and clean. It's official. But yeah, E3. I want a number. It's gonna be November, if anything, but I need it.
I think E3 is going to hit like 2015 levels of crazy this year. I'm
hope.
super excited. We had that shitty E3 last year. Hey, Mike, get us into E3. Hey, Mike.
No.
Oh,
We'll rep whatever you're working on right now.
Yeah,
we'll be
do-
booth babes.
yeah, we'll be.
That's it.
I've got the titties. You know I do. It's not fair. Give it to me. But anyways, so the slow chew. Listen, I went down a rabbit hole today, and before we go off into the actual like main topic of what we're going to be talking about tonight,
Okay.
this is what I was trying to tell you before, when you were all sleepy-eyed, rubbing your eyes, and I said, I want to approach you about a topic that I think you and Mike, two things actually, that you and Mike are very, very much going to connect on.
Okay.
So, how much do you know about the SAO Netflix movie? It's a movie, right? It's not a series?
No, it's a series.
It's a series.
It's a series.
It is a Japanese-led series, too?
It is. No, it's being basically produced by Skydance, and I guess Skydance, instead of producing it on like cable television, they're going to be putting it out on Netflix.
You know, the smart move, where
Yeah.
they can cut all fucking losses if need be.
Yeah. Netflix definitely recently does feel like a dumping ground for projects you don't think will succeed, like Bright or not Interstellar. Cloverfield, Paradox.
And
Just drop it and leave it, and whatever happens, happens. But yeah, no, there is an SAO live-action series coming. The producer and writer of it is the same producer and writer who did recently Altered Carbon.
oh, well...
And amongst
Well,
some other
shit.
things, I don't think she's worked on too many other things, but based off of what everyone said about Altered Carbon and what she has said about this Sword Art series, she's like, yeah, of course Kirito and Austin are going to be played by Japanese people. That'd be fucking stupid. And of course Agile's going to be black. Why wouldn't he be?
Yeah.
So she seems to be taking it, trying to be as faithful to the books, not the show. the books.
That is so strange to me. Okay, so
It's-
all right. You fucking sidetracked me real hard.
Yeah.
I did not know because I've actually like me and Sharon just recently finished Altered Carbon. I want to say on Thursday.
I have not started it.
I called her up, and I had no idea that she was finishing. I was just calling her like on some random thing, and she turns. She's like, ah! She answers the phone mid sob, and she's just like, it was such a beautiful ending. I just want. Which I have not. I didn't have that reaction, but I absolutely am in love with Altered Carbon. Mike, I'm not sure if you ever had the chance to actually check it out, or what have you been down the Netflix rabbit hole at all recently?
I mean, I've seen 6 episodes of Altered Carbon. I saw it show up one day when I was finishing. I rewatched the same shows over and over again. But I finished. I forget what, probably The Office or something. And then yeah, I can't really remember. Anyways, it just popped up. It was just like Altered Carbon. I'm like, oh, that's a cool name, and I clicked it, and I stayed up pretty late watching a decent number of episodes. Pretty good. Honestly, not bad. I'm enjoying it.
I absolutely love it. I think that it's just like from a cyberpunk aesthetic, it's just even that, everything it's got going on for it, the whole package, the story, the characters, it's all just so fun. And
Is it the actual Ghost in the Shell adaptation we deserved?
Man, so yes, but and the thing is that like one of the main things I keep seeing in reviews happen like pretty frequently is there's a lot of people who are hammering it because the main character, his name is Takeshi Kovacs, so he's a Slavic Japanese man, mainly Japanese, but to be within the canon of the story, he's played by the fucking guy from Suicide Squad, the
Will
army.
Smith.
No, not Will Smith.
Okay.
The guy, Rick Flag, the one who like is in charge of all of them.
I never saw Suicide
You
Squad.
never? Oh well, you're a better fucking person for it.
I'm gonna be honest.
But like, it's this like, just large white gentleman,
Yes.
and he's walking around, and his name is Takeshi Kovacs, and that's what he responds to frequently, or TAC or Kovacs for short. And
Yeah.
it's like, at first it was like I gotta admit it was a little off-putting, but that entire series is about like the actual Japanese counterpart, like his real body, like is shown just as frequently, if not more, in some instances, in some episodes, as this character, and I think it was played very well. I think it was the actual opposite of how fucking Ghost in the Shell handled it, which was mindlessly ridiculous. What was it again?
If Scarlett Johansson was like half the actress I think everyone thinks she is,
I don't think anyone thinks she's an actress. I think everyone just thinks
she
that.
plays a robot really well. Actually, I think that was good casting on that front. But like maybe, no, that was dumb. That was the dumbest.
Can you be a Japanese robot? I want you to just look at this Asibo for like Asimo. That's what it is, not Asibo. Oh man!
What even started this?
Altered Carbon.
No, you asked me how much do I know about the Sword Art
Yeah,
Netflix show.
yeah, and that's what. And then when you hit me with the fucking sidewinder of that, there's actually going to be real talent working on the show. So now I don't know what to do anymore. If it means that Ricky Kawahara is fucking keeping his dumb nose out of everything.
Ricky
Ricky Kawahara. I'm gonna gringo it up today, man. Let me tell you something.
Yeah, it's like everything else. I'm a huge apologist, as many people see in
Don't
next
worry,
week's
so is he.
video. Okay,
So
so
is
cool.
he.
So we're on the same page.
Uh-huh.
Again, I'll say it every time someone brings it up around me. Every problem that most of you have is 100% right. You're right. There. Until Reki Kawahara, until somebody puts like a leash on him and says like, no, you can't do that. If you just let him run free, yeah, he's gonna make like secret back alley pornos on his website.
I need you to explain something.
No,
something to me.
I don't want to.
I think you need to because of the rabbit hole I was talking about.
Okay, go ahead.
What the fuck is a fluct light? Secondly, you completely missold me on the whole army thing.
What is a fluct light?
A fluct light is apparently an actual data copy of the human soul. that
Yeah,
is used.
That sounds right.
Yeah, as an AI thing.
Are you talking about Alicization?
I'm talking about Alicization.
I have the first 4 light novels. I haven't started it yet. I
Is
started.
there okay? And I'm going through some reviews because I was just like, what are people gonna be in for? What could they
When
possibly
season
do?
3 drops.
But like in the back of my head, every time that we talk about like the ridiculousness that is SAO, I just go back to that fucking picture you showed me of Kirito in a fucking F-17 jet
Flying into space.
flying into space, going, I have literally no idea what the fuck I'm doing. Like I just get so confused, so mindlessly just.
Well, that's the thing, is that's all that's been officially translated, and I don't mess with the fan stuff too much, although I'm sure they do good work. But like, they probably do better work than he does. But yeah, there's a reason. It's because that world ages faster than ours, so technology starts advancing rapidly. I don't know the motivation behind like Kirito flying into space. I can't tell you that.
So when you sold it,
know.
okay, so basically you sold it to me as the government is using Kirito
Yes.
as a base to create military AI.
Yeah.
But that's not what's happening.
Okay.
What's happening is
We're getting into spoiler territory for those who fucking care. For me,
oh well, Mike might care.
Mike, how much?
I do care. I've only finished like book 5.
Oh well.
Oh shit! Shut your goddamn mouth, then, Phil. About your Flucklight bullshit. When I know, I'll know. And then I'll probably take back all the dumb shit I said. All I had to go off of was one image of Kirito flying a fighter jet into space, and one offhand comment where someone was like, "Yeah, we're the U.S. military. Get that Kazuto Kirigaya kid in here." That's what we'll use to
That's what I'm gonna use
to
He's
make
gonna
our
be
war
the
machines.
the fuel to my economy today.
There's gonna be a bunch of Jack 7s roaming around doing fucking starburst streams and
Jesus
horizontal squares.
Oh my god. God bless America. Already off to a fantastic
Yeah.
start. Listen, let's talk about something fucking upsetting. Or at least
we
upsetting.
already started.
At least upsetting for me. I'm not sure if you guys have been keeping up very lately with all of the going-ons, what with the new Twitch guidelines and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's something that it's been kind of a topic we've discussed back and forth on my stream a little bit. I wanted to go into a little bit more detail here, and I was curious as I explained a whole bunch of shit, because Mike is in obviously a very interesting position in all of this. I don't know much about what you guys have been doing for marketing for Dreadnought and stuff like that, but have you guys been working at all with potentially handing out beta keys and stuff like and just founders packs to content creators and influencers as a whole on like the platform of Twitch or YouTube?
Yeah, we've done that a little bit.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know if you've been keeping up with any of this bullshit, but I think just as of recently, sometime last week, Dr. Disrespect came back. For those of you who live under a rock, Dr. Disrespect is basically the biggest T1 streamer of the year, whatever the fuck that means, last year. And he broke Twitch. And another content creator had, at that same day, called him out very hard. I think his name was Jimmy. He's worked a lot with Freddie Wong and stuff like that. And he called him out super hard and shared a video of this man in a fucking mullet screaming at the top of his lungs about the Ching Chongs ruining his H1Z1. And that's exactly what it was. It was exactly that. Like, there's
Reporting
no
the news. It's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. There's no short selling it, unfortunately. These were the words this man used and paraphrased, and he got a lot of flack for it. And I feel like finally, in the grand scheme of things, Twitch has come out and in response to all this has decided to put its foot down on top of the complaints about the more provocative streamers, whether it be the aforementioned movie streamers or the people who are like Greek God, Tyler One, Dr. Disrespect, who are all very much about being one giant shit post and
Yeah.
said, okay, stop. Like it's time to wrap it the fuck up. Like we're a gaming stream. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Enough with this bullshit. But they said it with such like a hands-off kind of feel, because at the same time, they kind of approach the whole situation as like, well, I mean, context still matters, and if you say a joke, you just really got to make sure there's no way to go about it and say, I don't really think that about an entire group of people. Like that was exactly the words they used, and I was like, I don't think that was the right thing to fucking say.
Well, I actually pulled up the update on the new guidelines. I'm not seeing where they're kind of wishy-washy, but I definitely see, obviously.
Well, the guidelines themselves are fine. They're
Yeah.
clear cut. Like if
it's
you read
the
them,
PR statement that accompanied them.
yeah, it's the kind of more kumbaya like
It's like,
Twitch town hall thing they had going on, and for me it seems like it was like a recounting of their terms of service already, but
It's like, yeah, he was trying to say Ninja Dagger.
we'll
let it slide this
poor
time.
Max.
Poor Max,
He
he
ran
cried.
away from it. Oh, and he doubled
No,
down
he faced
too.
it head on
He faced it head on
right afterwards.
Oh man.
But yeah, no, the actual guidelines themselves are really good, but it's the same problem that YouTube has. It's the same problem all these big stuff have, or all these big websites have, where it's like the guidelines on paper make sense. It's the problem is, why do you want to enforce those guidelines on your highest earning users as the company itself?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, YouTube absolutely should have shut down that Logan Paul bullshit way sooner.
Mm-hmm.
But do you know how much money that dude brings in for them? So it's like,
It's
the
a weird
morally
tightrope.
right answer is yes, get him the fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
But the business side of things is like, we'll say we did it, but we didn't.
Yeah, well, the thing with YouTube though is that, like, say what you will about the adpocalypse, right? It has been dinging a lot of people for a lot of crazy shit that they just simply are not guilty of. But Twitch has been just considerably super quiet about a lot of the just miserable happenings that have been live streamed. I think like really the biggest one for me was TwitchCon, and being surrounded by all those IRL streamers who just had no wherewithal and no concept of human space, and decided to just shove a fucking $500 to $600 camera in your face with a microphone and be like, hey, how you doing? Be on my stream. And it doesn't matter who you were, even if you were big or not, you're just in the crossfire for them.
Yeah.
And it's there's this constant need to keep one-upping people, keep being more provocative, keep getting the viewers. And I don't know. I feel like a part of me is kind of I would say semi-worried, because we're not necessarily the most PG stream here. But at the same token, it's I'm not those fucking people. And I know that I'm not those fucking people, but I'm worried that Twitch is going to see that and go, well, they're making money.
Well, there's a difference
So
between
bye-bye.
not being PG and being genuinely bad people, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Where we may say some obscene stuff from here and there, but that at our core, if you were to meet any one of us in person, it'd be a totally different experience than if you'd meet some of these people who are, it's for whatever reason, the numbers do something to you. They get in some people's heads and they change the way you act, and you become this fucking weird diva person. And
And the thing is, there's two people that I've always kind of remarked on or thought talked about when it comes to the idea of just the most toxic posts.
welcome to the On Blast section of the podcast.
Well, no, well, Kriparian, we're gonna put on blast absolutely, because I mean that man's not doing anything anymore, so it doesn't matter. But Forsen is someone that I've recently discovered. And I don't know if you or Mike know who Forsen is, but he is a streamer that, as I have watched some of his previous content, I would liken him almost to a Mystery Science Theater 3000 kind of appeal, in that it's very much like watching someone engage in the world's longest social experiment, and he just can't stop, because he at least for a lot of his PUBG content, so he doesn't play with the stream delay at the time. So if he's plays a match, if enough people are like matching in his region and they press play, more often than not, that man has now 80 to 100 people who are in that server with one purpose: to find him and to shitpost so intensely that it actually overlaps into his reality for half a second. And it is the most like concerning and entertaining series of like car wrecks, is the only thing I can make like liken it to, I have ever seen. But at the same time, we're not talking about like the fun shit posting side like alone. Like, we're talking about the guys blasting out the Nasheed at the top of their fucking lungs and being, the xenophobics and the racist and all sorts of like maniacal people. And he's actually been quoted on Kotaku pretty late, like recently, saying, I don't know what I'm going to do because I make a living off of literally allowing people to do whatever the hell they want in my stream. So if Twitch turns around and does that, I'm like, well, is anything really lost there? Or, because, the other thing I keep saying, too, is remember ADGQ earlier this year was what the big meme was, we have to pay $5 to shitpost. It's like, well, no shit, idiot. Like, why would they? It's a charity event. They're for people fighting against cancer. No one's going to read your shitty, like, $500 donation that says something about, like, I don't even want to fucking go.
But... yeah, the problem with AGDQ was not charging people $5 to use the chat. There are more than enough things to complain about that event for, and it is not that. Already I don't understand talking in a chat with more than like 300 people anyway. Because what are you gonna say that's gonna show up? Mm-hmm. Why do you need to also put the same emote everyone else is putting?
Let me ask you a question. If you get a copy pasta through, what does it do for you?
You join the hive mind. You become connected. Your Fluctlight gets uploaded. And
No,
the US government uses
keep
you
the Fluctlights away. No, Kirito needs to.
Your shitpost hops in the fighter jet, flying to AGDQ,
just screaming at the top of his lungs. Action is coming. Action is coming. Oh, so Mike, have you heard about any of this shit at all? Have you just been super busy in the land of the video game that you've just been like? I feel like you and me are very much in the sense of we always keep our ear to the ground no matter what. We're always kind of like finger to the pulse guy kind of guys.
I can't really try to, but honestly, haven't really been following a lot of the Twitch stuff.
Right. So, as someone who like you're in the production thing, I know you're on the. Do you work with marketing as well at all? I feel like you've told me you've had your hands kind of in pretty much every single process at some point in time, like especially at school, from school to your job. Do you think that like you see all these like larger streamers, these people who can give you just like these massive like buffs to your general player base and the idea of like actually showing your game, is that something that you guys actively look into or have looked into, or has it been like a process where you just kind of sort of just
This is kind of a happy side effect?
Or, like
depending.
do you how much research, if you have done or if you know anything about it, do you think goes into like looking into the past of a content creator that may potentially want to work with you, or do you want to work with them?
Yeah, I'm not sure as much about the past per se of the content creator, but I know we've worked with a couple. Generally speaking, I mean, I can't really speak on behalf of what we've done outside of the things that I'm aware of that are like public knowledge. But like we worked with the Odd One, for example, and he did some cool stuff. Like, it's really hard to say because technically speaking, we've partnered with people who have like absolutely like huge numbers as far as viewers are concerned. But some of those are more informal in nature, and like we've had kind of a mixture of like results, I would say. You can have the people who just have a lot of viewers but end up being really opinionated. Oftentimes they don't really stick with like one game, right? They'll kind of switch pretty quickly.
Yeah, the variety streamers.
It's a really quick influx of like, so for example, the CCU numbers might jump at a given point in time, but for people to stick around, they'd have to really, usually they need some kind of incentive to play the game, like whether it's they watch the streamer and they're trying out something specific and the viewer wants to actually like emulate that and experience it themselves by playing the game and trying to recreate that, whatever that character is or whatever that moment in time. An example would be like a ship with a particular coding. We've seen a couple of like correlations between streamers and what happens on a given week. But I can't really speak on behalf of whether or not we like do a lot of research on an individual. Like I imagine there's research done. I'm not necessarily involved in that. Now I will say that there are a lot of high profile streamers actually have like companies that they work with that will actually be the point in time or the point of contact for companies to actually reach out.
Like a publicist.
So exactly. Advertising companies. Oftentimes you end up working with them as opposed to individually directly working with a given streamer. So their reputation is really predicated on the advertising company that they're working with, as opposed to necessarily hoping that you just know the streamer from the time they started to the time that they are now. It'd be really awkward if if you end up finding out later that one of the content creators you worked with ends up having a different profile than what you were expecting. I know some streamers, for example, have been outed for given problems. What's the big example? Someone who you guys would probably be more aware of this off the top of your heads. Who ended up being, I can't remember if the person was racist or along those lines, but like you don't want that associated with your brand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of why I was like curious as to why, like, is that something that maybe now needs to get brought up in not just your company, but in game development in general? Because I feel like for me, like in the past couple of years, the sort of back and forth between content creators and game developers has been very it can be touch and go at a lot of points. I know that like people don't necessarily like Nintendo's approach to it, but you'll have the Capcoms of the world and Square Enix and all these people who come up and they offer sponsorships like crazy. And let's not even talk about the mobile game market. Those people are nuts with just throwing they have so much money and they will just throw it at whoever fucking wants to catch it just to get like the slightest bit of views. But I feel like is that like an issue that we now have to sit there and genuinely look at? Like, are we going to have to put it under microscopes? Because at the time, you could just basically get away with relatively like family-oriented streamers, and now all those like Minecraft guys, those seemingly innocuous, the Captain Sparkles and the PewDiePies of the world, are all kind of like.
Guess what? When you make a career off of playing Minecraft, maybe something happens to you as a person. Like, I don't know. It's so weird because it's one thing where you would have to separate like the ideas and kind of the views of the creator and his project, where you separate the art from the artist. But it's another it's another thing entirely when it's someone who is very prolific to a certain game or something, but really when you get down to it, they have no direct connection. They have no involvement with the creation of the game, distribution of the game, or technically on paper the marketing of the game. But even still, you start to associate that game or like you said, Mike, that brand with that person. So the views that carry over, like it could definitely, I see, negatively affecting a game's like public image, where you have people where it's like Call of Duty, just as the most basic example I can think of, being commonly associated with kids telling you that they had sex with your mom and just generally toxic behavior, where I'm sure everyone who works on Call of Duty is pretty cool, upstanding guys, and the games that come out are fine, but there are people who won't pick up, multiplayer shooters because of the people who play them. And for streamers, that's even just a larger beacon that's just, you just start to associate it almost subconsciously between the person streaming the game and the game itself.
And I hate to say that, but yeah, I want to say that like there's also streamers, like a lot of like frequently larger streamers out there who you watch them play these games, and it doesn't help the mindset or the mentality that people have going into these kinds of like things, where it's like, if someone's playing Call of Duty, I'm gonna expect either a venom spitting 12-year-old, haha, like I said in the video call out, or I'm gonna expect a grown man who's wearing a snapback, fucking pounding now illegal G Fuels, and calling everybody out for being shit at a game and using a weapon that is just infinitely better than everything else. And more often than not, I will find that stream and I will watch it until I just get sick of it, because I'm just like, well, I just want to see the game. I just want to see what differentiates the Call of Duty, which is weird because when you look at like the Call of Duty marketing campaigns, they're very like, I think the most recent one was super. I guess the word to call it is cute. The only thing that you can call it was cute because the idea was it's like people who were like it's younger adults, younger adults who are grown up and they're just like, yo, Call of Duty's going back to World War II. What are we doing? And like the whole thing is everyone's got their like new lives. They're all like corporate zombies,
responsibilities.
But they got kids now. But like they're all like getting together for this one thing. It's like, oh, that's fun. That's the kind of shit that I want to see.
Yeah, what should be associated with the games at its core is fun.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like more and more as like as Twitch streaming and YouTube gaming and all that shit is grown. It's almost superseded a whole lot of, like, if you're not talking about, like, massive AAA pushes, it's almost superseded, like, traditional marketing campaigns as well. And more often than not, I mean, the one we're going to talk about at some point that unfortunately can't keep fucking spoiling the content, Lineage 2. Mm-hmm. Like, the whole crux of that campaign is, like, look at all these crazy streamers that all say this phone game's mind-blowing. You know what I mean? And that works. That gets people. It's insane how well that works, and I just feel like it's a weird. As someone who at some point in time wants to get into the games industry, in some regard, like it's a weird fucking place to be where it's like you're in the in between. Like you see both sides and you're scared for both sides because you think that there's a future in content creation and you can see that it's so cool, but it's like I just want to keep fucking playing video games and work with cool companies. Why do people got to say the N-word at the top of their lungs?
So here's the really weird thing that I could never get, like, understand. But, Mike, is it weird that your job is basically to make these games and put them out as products? Does it just feel weird that somebody then takes that product and makes a career using that, like, this game that you've been working on for months? You've seen everything from, asset creation, narrative creation, all this sort of stuff. You finally put out this project, and then in some, like, is that weird that somebody else then takes that game and forms a career off it? Because other than video games, I don't think anything else has that kind of effect. Like, movie critics will criticize movies, but then they'll move on.
Yeah.
There are people who only play PUBG and make livings off of it. And is that weird at all?
Let's ask our resident game dev.
I'm not sure if weird is the right terminology because I've always kind of been around, like Justin.tv, like back when it was.
Oh my god!
I've been around it for honestly since before I've made it into the industry, so it's hard for me to say if it's weird, but I will say that it is interesting. I don't personally see any problem with people making a living off of playing the games that I make, frankly, because one word, exposure. It's free marketing. Like, a person makes a living, awesome. Do they make the game? Like, does them marketing the game basically by playing the game, does it bring in revenue to the company who originally made the game? If the answer is yes, then totally fine with me. Like, and I will tell you that the reason why you're seeing advertising companies partnering up with streamers is because it is giving some kind of net positive to those game developers and those publishers. So for the most part, honestly, it's just a win-win for everybody. I'm not the biggest fan of trying to own the content that's being created as well as the content that is being used to create content with. I don't think that it should be this. Like, I wouldn't want to, for example, have someone pay us a bunch of money to have the rights to then stream a game.
Gotcha.
That doesn't seem particularly cool because granted, maybe someone will figure out how to monetize that, but me personally, it's free marketing. Like, that's really what it is. And ideally, if they're marketing it well, then might even have higher rates of monetization. For example, for a free-to-play game, they might be more interested in buying a DLC. They might be more involved as a consumer, as a player. So yeah, overall, just a positive.
Yeah.
I would love to be in the boardroom of the guy who showed up and said, why don't we just make loot boxes in CSGO and then see all those early fucking age CSGO box opening, like weapon opening things, and just watch the money fucking roll in. I would love to be a fly on a wall in that absolute
You
den of
wanted to ride
debauchery and sin.
that wave of that self-fulfilling. I make the money from opening the boxes and then spend the money to get more boxes to open to make the
No,
money.
but the guys, the actual company who's making money off of the people
off the boxes.
buying the keys to these boxes for this gear that you can now make, or you could make a bunch of money on. I think now it's actually the same has been done for PUBG, by the way. Because they have loot boxes. They have loot boxes for strictly for cosmetic purposes. But my friend was like, I'm going to be buying Fatal Bullet on Steam because I sold enough PUBG boxes to fund it. And it's like, okay, that's cool, but like that's a little weird. I don't know how I feel about that. But, you know, it is what it is, because, like, it's like the GameStop situation. I'm giving you this physical thing, and I'm going to get credit instead of money.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, at least then it's like, I'm going to give you this digital thing to get a digital currency to buy a different digital thing.
Yeah.
So it's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, it's not like going to like an arcade and putting in $1 and getting tokens, where you've essentially exchanged a currency with value for a currency that has no value besides like playing Time Crisis.
The tolls won't accept your Chuck E. Cheese
They
tokens.
won't. They won't. They fucking won't. But yeah, no, I hate loot boxes. That's all I want to say on that. I get them. I get it. I get why they work. I get it. But
we'll get there.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. No, but on an earlier point, like that's why it's always been so frustrating for me because like even as someone who hasn't been like is now getting directly motivated to actually participate into content creation, just seeing like the weird like blowback from a lot of my favorite companies. Atlas was a super good example last year of just having absolutely no like forward thinking, completely shooting that game's hype in the foot. Excuse me.
No, see, with the Atlas thing and the Danganronpa team did something pretty similar. I get what they wanted to do, and it's like in a story-driven game like that, if it gets spoiled, that is a lost sale. If someone sees it, like Persona, it's to a lesser degree, but with Danganronpa, that shit's a book. If you know how that thing ends, why would you... Like, if you already know the story, what's the point in buying it? That is 100% a lost sale.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to the fact that they said, stream it to a certain point, but afterwards we would ask that you don't. Atlas threatened attacks.
Asking and
Danganronpa didn't. They just said, please don't. We won't get mad if you do, but we'd prefer if you didn't. Where it's like you show the first part of the game, that's enough for the kind of the advertising works both ways, where the streamer has content to stream and the game that's getting streamed gets exposure without having to ruin basically the story. But yeah, I know at least for the Persona thing, that was like tradition since like Persona 4 or 3 or something like that, where they would always use the cute little characters like, hey, don't fucking spoil it, jackass. And it's like, all right, Teddy, sure.
If you do it, I'll fucking come for you in the night.
Yeah, back then they used to just come and knock on your door and they'd take the game back. But nowadays they shut your Twitch down.
They just shut your monitor, your fucking everything down. That's I think was the one that put like the really bad taste in my mouth, because once again, fucking Nintendo. They're still on that hype train, and I feel like for a lot of people, what's strangely enough what I've been seeing is that if you're not a big enough content creator, and you're doing stuff on Twitch, if you got like a following, like enough where you're making like a living, like I've seen like the medium Twitch content creator where it's like, I'm making money, but I'm not like pulling in these Shroud numbers where I'm making $500,000 a fucking month, but I'm living. And if they're careful enough, they'll stay off the radar. And I feel like that's a weird kind of back and forth, like a bad sort of seesaw you want to be on, of just like, languish into obscurity or go a little further into success.
You're tippy-toeing around for sure.
Yeah,
but
like, do I really need to keep playing Burial Card on stream? Maybe not, you know?
maybe not. I definitely won't be anymore. Not that I ever did. We were drinking Sprite.
Oh, yeah. That was a good night of Sprite. It doesn't matter.
Real party.
None of this matters.
I've been banned. I've been to the clink once, dude. I can't go back. I had to stream on Hitbox for like 6 months.
Oh, well, okay,
was rough.
first of all, motherfucker, you were in the clink because you streamed Fatal Fury.
The movie.
The
I
movie.
thought it was still a video game. That's not the point. I got a target on my back now. Every stream, half the viewers, they're all Twitch cops. Just keeping an eye on me so I don't do anything out of line or crazy.
Jesus Christ.
No, but
Oh, man. So, I guess, we could lead more into the conversation, the real meat and potatoes of the things that we hate
yeah,
and that we have vehemently been against and we have vehemently spoken ill of.
yeah. Video games.
Let's talk about video games. Let's talk about making money off of video games through terrible means, or what I would consider to be terrible means. And it's bringing it up because I just realized that Sea of Thieves is like Sea of Thieves for me is like a thing where it's like I keep seeing it everywhere.
I can't believe Sea of Thieves is out. I thought that game came out like 2 years ago.
There's a beta happening right now
Okay.
for PC.
All right.
And that version looks way fucking better than the Xbox One version, as is usually the case. Just just gameplay, running, all that stuff looks fun. And I was watching some of the larger streamers stream it today, and there was a topic that was just put on Reset Era, talking about how they every time Jim Sterling posts a video, and I don't necessarily see eye to eye with that man every now and then. This is the same man who turned around and said that Sam Gideon power sliding his Eddie Van Halen ass to victory against the Russian robot menace was deserving of a 2 out of 10.
Are we talking about Vanquish?
Yeah, Vanquish.
Okay.
He
Jesus.
gave Vanquish a 2 out of 10. That's what it is. It's the story of Eddie Van Halen and David Lee Roth fighting against the Russian robot menace, and Hillary Clinton is the president.
I need to play that game.
It's a
still.
great game. It's a fantastic game.
God.
But it's just he came out, and Mr. Sterling has been absolutely a spearhead in the movement against video game companies doing anything that even remotely looks like a microtransaction. And Sea of Thieves had recently come out and were pretty ballsy about their approach. I feel like, or Rare rather, not the actual game. Like the developers themselves were like, "Hey, listen, we're not doing loot boxes. We are doing microtransaction exclusive things. We're not going to tell you that you can earn everything in the game, but we are having microtransactions. We just want to let you guys know. It's not going to be like breaking the bank."
That's
And
a fair statement to make.
Yeah, I think that's a
100%.
completely fair statement to make. Jim Sterling doesn't think so, and
That's-
made a 10-minute video
That's dumb.
of just absolutely blasting it and just shouting from the high heavens like, "I don't think people making money is a good thing if it's not me."
Should put microtransactions on his videos. Then. What an idiot.
he did. It's called his Patreon.
Oh God.
So, and I feel like we go back and forth every now and then, because a part of me is like, I'm completely fine with some microtransactions, and other times I'm just like, just don't know. I just want to play the fucking game, just because I feel like in a lot of ways nowadays we got the Destiny 2 problem, which, Mike, how much are you willing to say on Destiny 2?
Have you seen me online recently?
Well, I uninstalled the PC version, and I have been absolutely in love with Monster Hunter World, so that's just been what I've been doing for the past 100 hours of my life. Is Monster Hunter World, which, by the way, you should totally get. That's a good game.
We haven't done
Yeah,
a
I'm gonna get it
single
when it
one.
comes out on PC.
We do. We need to go do that.
Yeah.
I need to get you caught up to speed.
We gotta get Ryu. Oh, you can't get Ryu yet. That's right. Only I can get Ryu.
Fucking no, I have stream. Oh, it's only AE. Is it?
It's a free update. Just update.
Oh, well, shit. Okay, then yeah. Because I have Street Fighter 5.
Oh shit.
Well, fuck.
Sorry.
Oh.
Hope it was worth it for the Ryu costume.
Oh
Anyway.
man! So when did you dip out, man? I don't remember. I feel like we dipped out near the same time, Mike.
When I hit max level, light level, for the first raid, and then PC came out and they halved the experience gain, and I got so irritated by that, and I immediately clocked out. I was like, no.
That is like the most fucking underhanded bullshit I've ever heard of. Like that is single-handedly like the most transparent. Like, this is really just a money decision. Like this is just straight up like, oh hey, you're enjoying this game. Let me take every single ounce of enjoyment from it, and then just pay it back to you. Like and then make you buy it. Like it's so fucking miserable.
I'm not. Oh, you're talking about in terms of buying like the XP gains?
Yeah, well, not only that, just gear in general being fucking pay-gated behind a lot of the Eververse stuff. I'm not sure if you've heard about any of that. I'm not sure how closely you've been keeping with Destiny 2's
Not a whole bunch.
constant fuck ups.
Yeah.
But
No. Actually, hold on. Someone in your chat just said, I'd rather pay $20 to $30 extra for a game if there was a guarantee of no microtransactions. Honestly, if we're talking about like basic box product stuff in terms of like AAA game development, like that's about probably what's minimum needed. Because right now, games frankly are too cheap for when we're talking about platforms. Because you're talking about creating the thing, creating the actual marketing. You're talking about like the actual physical merchandising of a game is actually pretty expensive.
so would you say that
Especially if you're talking cartridge world,
Yeah.
discs are cheaper. Depends on the console. Obviously, Switch, for example, has cartridges. All that stuff has cost. Games have not increased in price for consumers in an extremely long time. The games, however, have like in order to make them are infinitely more expensive, like exponentially. It's not just like a linear increase in cost. Just the absurdity of what people expect in a game is mind blowing. Seriously, like games are expensive. It's already hard to make money in game development. It just is. It's absurdly difficult. You have to sell a lot more games than you would probably think in order to actually hit like to break even, especially if you're counting the marketing cost, which is usually about the cost of the game development. Also, like all of those, like you mentioned November at something being announced at E3, just the marketing, God, the advertising windows for box products is so expensive. I'm not sure if you guys know like what CPA refers to, but like cost per acquisition, all that stuff. Not the accountant thing, but the like what would normally cost, for example, about $5 to get a person to see your game, like it, and play it and buy it. Usually, the idea is you want to make more money back per person than as an average than the amount you'd spend on that person in order to get them, right? But in like November and like October, that stuff is like $15 at some points. Like it's absurdly expensive.
Wow.
Per person.
And you're talking about competing with like the Activision and 2K publishers who they build their games around these releases. They build their stocks around the releases of these games. Impossible to compete with. You're best off if you're talking about smaller games. Definitely release them at earlier windows space them out throughout the year. There are a couple of really good random moments, like in the springtime and like early summer, that are good times to release a game. But
Well, I mean, look at PUBG. PUBG released in the middle of March last year, I want to say.
Did they
And-
actually? Was that the release or was that early access?
It was early access, but like early access, I mean, they're still like just the idea of that game being in a viable capacity.
PUBG is a really good example of something that's probably charting new territory. The organic growth from Twitch, definitely really interesting. Like, God, that's such a good case study. I imagine there will be a number of papers that come out in the coming years about that game specifically and how I forget exactly how their systems work as far as the gifts or the items you receive, like that incentivize you to play, but that system is actually just brilliant. just in general.
Yeah, I feel like, but at the same time, like even with the idea of the case study, like it being a potential case study, it's such a weird flash in the pan kind of. I don't see that happening again. Like
At
not,
least
not
not
for a very
for a
long
while.
time, because I'm trying to think of the next potential game idea that isn't like a AAA title, because to sit there and make, I mean, you're talking about 22 million like people who've bought that game.
Yeah.
Like, but Battlefront hasn't even made those numbers.
And the interesting thing, especially about PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, is that as far it's not even a relatively new idea, because it goes back to like Arma mods and like DayZ, H1Z1. This is just the culmination of like seeing that there's a budding successful genre there, and just putting all of your eggs into that basket and making sure that now is a rather polished product, I've heard, but just
It runs.
It not on
runs
Xbox One,
no.
but it runs. But just focusing it on that, and yeah, I don't think it's a matter of finding something new. It's finding something that's currently being like underutilized or not underappreciated, but there's just not the big push that is, say, a subgenre like the battle royale genre got. And that's just it's become like what League of Legends did for MOBAs, where it just blew the fuck up. And it wasn't the first one. It wasn't the first game of that caliber, but it was the one that did it the most successfully, whether it just be, branding, whether it be what went into it design-wise. For whatever reason, League was the one that blew up. And with League especially, I think being free-to-play was definitely a huge part of that, where anyone could just hop in and start playing. And with PlayerUnknown, the fact that it's a $30 game already lowers the barrier to entry, and I think that's an important part of it too, where it's not as much as being free to play, but it's still less than a full $60 game.
Yeah. So this is why I wanted to bring Mike on, because it's interesting, because this is completely counterintuitive to the points that I made 2 weeks ago about how I said, well, I mean, and EA has shown, like the larger companies have shown, a drop in cost for development. So like they're not making, or they're not spending as much money, but I also forgot the reason they're not doing that is because they're not making engines.
Mm-hmm.
They're all forcing their developers to use the same proprietary engine, whether it be Frostbite over at EA or fucking whatever the hell Activision works on. I guess Unreal.
Source Engine.
Source. Oh my god.
No, they stopped, I think.
Can someone give Respawn a real engine?
No.
Oh no, because they're just gonna give them Frostbite. Fuck. God damn it. But like the PUBG thing is an interesting thing. The early access as a concept is an interesting thing too. Is it more efficient for like not just like smaller creators, but just like creators in general, like developers in general, to start working on smaller projects that are $30 and then just try to push that through word of mouth, and then more don't try to market it as hugely as like, don't fucking throw the $500,000 Destiny 2 advertising budget in with the bathwater and all that nonsense. But like, how can you go about having developer costs? Is it just downsizing? Is it just actually going for more feasible things, or just kind of like decreasing scale?
Is the solution to charge more for what we already have, or optimize to meet what the current like average sale price for a game is?
Yeah.
Jeez.
And that is it's a
really tough thing to answer. Part of the thing that people have to understand is player expectations about value. They're drastically different.
Yeah.
When you buy a game on PS4 or Xbox or the Nintendo Switch or the 3DS, like you're expecting a certain amount of gameplay, as opposed to someone who plays on the PC, say buying a game from Steam. You'll see a lot of games that when they launch on Steam, launch at a sale price, for instance.
Well, I know for me personally,
oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I know for me personally, like, okay, so take games like Nier, right? Generally story-driven experiences that I've been trying to get people to play on like ages ago. I had no problems paying not just the $60, the $72 I had to pay to get it 2 weeks early from the Hong Kong store. I had no problem paying that because I loved that game. But other people saw that game and were like, well, I don't know if it's a $60 title.
See, I have a more extreme example. I play fighting games.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I spend upwards to $90 per game for the game and the season pass. For all I need is versus, training, and online. I don't care if there's a story mode. I don't care if there's, arcade. I don't care if there's arcade mode. I don't think arcade mode saves Street Fighter. But other people looking in on that, it's like $60 for 16 characters and no arcade mode, no story mode. There's no value there. And it is so true that every person, the value they assign to what, the products they buy is radically different. Where, like, we will take a game that doesn't look as pretty. It doesn't need to be photorealistic as long as, it's satisfying to either play or the story's good.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, they bought their PS4 Pro or their Xbox One X, they bought their 4K TV, and they just want to play Madden every year, and they bought those games because they look realistic. They gauge games based off of how good they look, how long they're able to play it for, stuff like that. Longevity is a huge thing.
Longevity is a very big thing nowadays.
And how they get that longevity is totally different, because if you bought Dragon Ball Fighters and you don't play fighting games, you went online, got curb stomped, yeah, you have a 10-hour story there, but the longevity of the game doesn't extend, whereas I could potentially get hundreds of hours out of it just because I'm willing to put in the time. And it's just based on interests and where you see the value.
Yeah, that's... God, it brings
that's
up,
why I
brings
don't
up
care.
fucking PUBG again, because it's like PUBG... I
Blaze
feel like
Blue.
PUBG is one of... Oh, Blaze Blue. We'll get there.
70.
50. Oh, 70 altogether.
First DLC pack is free. The Ruby characters are free now.
The next one is $20. Next one is $20.
Next one's 20.
Yeah, they're releasing at 50. That's a weird. I don't know. About
We'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah. What were you saying before I rudely interrupted you, Mr. Mike?
Something about player value. Honestly, I can't remember.
Sorry.
It's just like, that's the other thing too, is that, like, how many people nowadays, what I'm starting to see is not just longevity, but like who's buying the game. So Lyle made a really good point on the first episode, where he was like, I made the choice for Destiny 2 to give it 2 weeks, and if people were still talking about it, I would buy it. And that just didn't happen. But like with Monster Hunter World, 2 weeks later, people are still like up in arms, like, this is great. And now everyone's at the point where it's like, either A, you're in the end game grind and you're crying because now you have too much to do, or B, you're still at the beginning and you're just like, there's a whole world of possibilities, and then you're going to get to high rank and you're going to go, oh, there's a whole world of possibilities.
Too much longevity. I don't have a
Finding
social
a game with a
life.
good end game is so difficult.
Well, I think you and I have talked about this quite a bit. It's kind of the juxtaposition between what people can perceive as like linear versus horizontal progression. And I think I know you're familiar with the concept. I think, right, Mike?
Yeah, we've spoken about it before.
Yeah,
Vertical.
yeah.
Horizontal.
Where Monster Hunter is the best representation of a game that is almost entirely about horizontal progression, and because of that, a lot of the content, you're replaying it, but you're still getting new shit every single time, because there's not an end to that game's difficulty. There's just an end to, all right, now I have literally farmed every single weapon and armor set in the game, and I have played. And I've mastered each of these things.
Which you probably won't do.
You probably
There
won't
is a
do.
dude who's Hunter rank 999, but most people won't hit that.
There are people fucking fighting Nergigante at 1 minute and 45 seconds. There are people doing this.
Makes me feel
Most
like
people won't. Yeah, doesn't it? Fuck! Like, it's insane. Go. Real quick shout out to Akinator, I believe his name is. You can look it up. Nergigante speedrun 145. Yeah, he uses the Rocksteady mantle. Who the fuck cares? He earned it. He earned that shit. He used guard points. I don't know how the fuck to use guard points on a charged blade. Are you kidding me? That shit's insane.
Man, Monster Hunter 100% nails like player engagement, and like it's like a drug. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
suck at Dragon Ball right now because every time I think like, okay, I'm gonna practice, I'm gonna grind, I'm gonna hit online, I turn on my PS4. Monster Hunter's already in. I'll do a quick hunt, and then it becomes like a 3-hour fucking thing.
I had this
I
problem.
wasn't going to even buy the game. I bought it so we could do that review. And look at it. I'm not even where everyone else is at, but still.
No, and there's still, and like when you get to our point, it's still gonna be a situation where you're just like, oh well, fuck. Now I just want to make new builds. Now I just want to. What's sleep bombing? What's what's what is the Mushroom Mancer, and why is the Mushroom Mancer literally the strongest thing in the game? Oh, it's so cool. Once again, hey, I know this has been a fucking 3 episodes now of a podcast where we keep.
We've talked about Destiny, Monster Hunter, BlazBlue, Dragon Ball. We're only going to talk about these games until something else comes out.
Until something fucking good.
Guess
comes
what?
out.
Next podcast after this one's going to be the Fatal Bullet one. I will not shut up about it.
No.
I will not. It's going to be great. Tune back in, folks.
Hey, Mike, are you buying Fatal Bullet?
What?
Fatal Bullet, the new SAO game.
I haven't played any SAO game.
Well,
Good.
this one might be up to your interest. They said that specifically they look towards games like The Division and Destiny as a kind of a jump off point in how they handle loot and stuff like that, in the sense of like actual progression.
Yeah.
So it could go both ways. It doesn't matter. Me
it
and Max are
is-
going on the ride.
It is Freedom Wars.
All right.
Yeah.
I
so-
will
of that.
keep my ear to the ground for 2 weeks and see what people say.
See, there you go.
It'll just be me screaming in this big echo chamber that is just myself.
No, guys, for real, the books are fine.
The books
There's a
are-
300-page boss battle, but the books are fine.
Oh, it's sick, though. There's no 300-page boss battle. It's a chapter.
It's 300 pages long.
I think the light novels are each like what, maybe 200 pages tops.
Yeah, they're pretty light. Again, I was...
God damn it.
I didn't mean it. I didn't even... Shut up. Shut up!
Oh my god.
Hey.
Hey.
I'll also say the same thing every time the light novels come up. Just read Progressive. Just read. If you like the idea of being trapped in a video game that kills you, read Progressive.
Just read it. Just, hey man. I don't know if that's the one that I like about it though, because you know what? I was thinking back and I was like, there was a time where I unironically liked Sword Art. I think there was absolutely a
movie
time.
that we
No, it
went to
was
go
not
see.
the
Okay,
fucking movie.
well.
It was not Ordinal Scale.
Maybe when
The
we
only-
rewatch it tonight after the podcast,
We're
you'll
not
feel differently.
Listen, Ordinal Scale was funny because the entire first hour is everyone is having a great time, and Kirito is just some fat jobber who won't stop eating pasta.
He makes spaghetti 3 times in the first
3
hour.
fucking times, 3 separate
Uh.
occasions, and then like it was great because I think someone made a really good point for like later books where it's like, you know how like basically Yuki's kind of or is that her name? I forget. The Mother Rosario.
Yeah.
She's kind of the main character in those books, and then like Alicization is Alice bullshit is
Yes.
is it Alicization?
Alicization.
That's so fucking.
But we've never heard anyone say it, so who knows?
That's gonna be a mouthful in Japanese. Holy shit! Alicization.
Maybe they'll just bleep it. So you never know.
Lulu.
Uh,
Oh my god. Where was I even going?
not Sword Art.
Okay.
Just forget it.
Okay.
Chat's annoyed. I'm annoyed. No one likes these talks. They happen every time.
I don't care. None of this matters. It is what it is. Oh. But anyways. So how are you, because I know we've talked about it in the past, how are you framing, let's go all the way back, let's just go back.
I thought you were just gonna stop at that. I thought you were like, okay, guy, Mike, how are you doing
Well,
right now?
How are you doing, Mike? That's a good
In
question.
general, how you feeling?
Wait, is that a serious question?
Yeah,
sure.
Oh, fuck it, why not? Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I'm doing pretty fucking great.
Oh,
Good.
cool.
Good to hear. But anyways, what I was trying to say was, so how do you handle microtransactions in your game? I want to know what from your perspective, how has your studio been like kind of trying to approach the market? Because I know that Dreadnought is a free to play game. So obviously microtransactions are going to be part of the monetary process. It has to be. You can't just make a free game. That's just not possible anymore unless you're
One dude making a visual novel in your room.
well, even then,
Uh,
fucking the Undertale guy.
how about I speak more generically as opposed to talking about the game that I'm working on?
Yeah.
So I'll give League of Legends as the example that everyone likes to turn to about monetizing free to play games, and it's cosmetics for everything. Um, yes, cosmetics in League are super important to their monetization, but it's not the only thing they sold. They sold characters, they sold boosts, they sold XP boosts, they sold IP boosts. Back when those things were what they were, I think now it's what is it? Blue Essence is the old is IP, and
Yeah,
you
Blue
still
Essence, which is a
yeah, but you still
weirdly
had experience in the game. Progression boosts are make a lot more money than I think people think. As like people like to point to to a game like League and say that that's how monetization should be. Um, it's easy to do that when you are a free to play PC player. Uh, but when you look into the world of other games, especially when you talk about like mobile, um, the there's more than just monetizing cosmetics, and people will pay for progression. For example, it's really about when you're the concern we're really talking about here. The whole reason why we're talking about microtransactions is the fact that there's a way to do them incorrectly,
yeah.
and it's all about player value, right? Like player perception is super important. Just like we were talking a moment ago about people have different opinions about what value is. People have different opinions about what $20 should be. Uh, but like skins, for example, in League of Legends, at their base, you have like $35 skins, right? And all they are reskins. They can be cool. They can be super cool, but they're a skin, right? They're just
Yeah.
modifying the same character in a way that's different, and other people see it. So it's really hard to go into massive detail about what players like versus what players think is good. It's easy to make something that would theoretically meet those requirements as far as what previous games or previous data have shown about what players like and what they like to purchase. But it's so easy to like make it halfway there, and then they actually don't reach the point of like player value, in which case you've scammed a player. It's easy to undervalue something
Yeah.
as a player, because you got to think about the developer costs. Like I could tell you right now that when you're talking about creating a ton of like 3D assets or art, for example, in DLC, like that is months and months of work, regardless of the studio that you're at. Uh, God, that stuff is expensive. Like it's so hard. It's so hard to talk about this in like a really like granular level without talking about context.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I get
but-
you.
Yeah, it's just like cosmetics aren't the only way that people will buy things. That's just something that I really gotta say. And I'm not saying that that's bad or that's wrong. There are so many ways to sell things to players, but what you're really talking about is ethical monetization, and that's really the crux of probably what this whole entire conversation should be about. There's a way to do things incorrectly. There's a way to do things that trap players into feeling like no matter what they do, they either feel like the money they spent is wasted and they have to spend even more money to get the value that they actually desire, or they spent a very small amount of money and are extremely satisfied, but the developer is broke. Like
Mhm.
it's a lot harder than it looks. You're talking about barrier to entry. Box products versus, and when I say box products, I don't necessarily mean something that's actually in a box, but something that you actually pay for upfront. PUBG would be a good example of that. I would consider that a box digital or whatever you want to call it. But you have to make a lot more money overall from a couple of players if the rest of the player base is not paying anything for the game. God, I'm such a terrible example of this, but I spent a ton of money on League of Legends, and I don't regret any of it because if I look at the amount of time I played that game, like it still probably is 50 cents on the dollar, but that's a lot of hours. So, mathematically, Jesus.
I've spent, I don't even know how much on League of Legends, but I know I've spent at least $300 on Warframe. At very least, I've spent $300 on Warframe across 3 separate accounts. Because I always forget the accounts, and it's always like on some fucking old. Because Warframe has been around for so long that like I've outgrown some emails.
Yeah.
So, it just turns into a thing where it's like my value for that game is I like the weapons, I like the thing, I want to get the cool weapons.
I want to go fast and be a space ninja. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't do that when you force me to grind and grind and grind. It's like, I get why you do that. I'd rather just pay because I have a job. I work a full-time fucking job. And for me personally, I'm okay if it's in a cooperative environment about paying for potential progression. But like I feel like for me, when it comes into the idea of like real ethical quandaries, it's competitive video games. Every time that someone tells me if you buy this thing, it'll get you better, and that's why like for me, League of Legends is such a weird back and forth because you can buy an in-meta champion for that season.
Yeah.
And you'll be good for a year. If you spend the $10 to $15 that champion cost, you'll be good. I remember when Jinx first released and when Lucian first released and all these fucking characters were just mindlessly overpowered because Riot has this really fun thing where they release a character and go, we'll work on it as it goes on. But the kits are always like either really useless or really good.
Yeah.
So it's just like weird like back and forth where you're just kind of like, I know I can grind the characters out. I know I can hold IP. And they'll always give you a release date for a character so you know it's coming and you know you can save up for it. But at the time when IP was a thing, the amount of games you had to play to get up to 6,700 IP, you would be playing it because League of Legends was that kind of game where you just would keep fucking playing it.
Yeah.
But you're talking about like what? How much were IP games without boosters, Mike? Like fucking 300, 400 maybe?
To get a single champion back?
Well, no, like just, in a game. Like how much would it be? Like 300, right? Like 300 to 400 IP.
Yeah, that would be like the most you would get if you won with like an XP boost or like what's it called? The first one of the day boost that they have.
Yeah, and then right after that, it's like any game you play after that, it's lower than that, and you're not using a fucking boost, you're not using an IP boost, so at that point it just turns into sure, I'm going to be playing the shit of this game. I want to play that character, I want to learn that character, and I want to be competitive.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I have a problem. Is that's like when you feel the need to catch up. Not because you're trying to be like in a cooperative situation. You're just like, I want to get to the fun part. I want to get to the competitive part. I want to be someone who's better than everybody. Yeah. So I'm going to pay for this advantage of literally having a character that's better than everyone. So I'm, and then even like with fighting games, it's a weird one too.
Yeah, because with fighting games, obviously, the kit of a single fighting game character versus a single character in a MOBA, not to discredit MOBAs, but there's a bit more happening with individual fighting game characters where you could buy a character that's high in the tier list, even though tier lists don't really matter. But at the end of the day, you still need to put in the work to be even like if you still don't know how to play neutral or you still don't have fundamentals down, if you can't throw a fireball, then buying like getting Abigail, who's currently the best character in Season 3 of Street Fighter, is not going to matter.
Yeah.
So the only time where it kind of, like, you kind of feel trapped into buying a character is so that you can either, one, play as them if you wanted to play as them. And in that case, buy the character because you're playing the game. And the other case is if you wanted to actually practice against them, because very few games offer the ability to play against characters you don't own. And so that kind of limits the experience you can get, but you can also just kind of play online, which is what you should be doing anyway. So fighting games are kind of different, but again, it's where it all comes down to where you put your value.
So I feel like Tecmo is actually way ahead of the fucking game, way ahead of the curve in terms of how they handle that, for the dumbest fucking reason. That you know how it works.
Yeah.
You are forced. You don't have access to them, but you are forced if you want to play online to download each of the costume packs data. So you have that data, so that you can see other people use the costumes.
That's most fighting games actually.
Yeah.
Will do that.
Yeah. So
Compatibility
I
pack.
feel like
Not
that.
anymore, but they used to.
Yeah, I feel like that needs to be a thing for characters. So that you have that data, you can just unlock it. Like you like, and not like in the on disc DLC, but like,
Well, that is the way they work. It all comes in updates. When you buy a character, you buy the unlock code, like the line of text that they add to the code. That obviously that's not how DLC works. But essentially, it's your unlock.
yeah.
So the character will always be in the game files. You'll see them online. You can play against them online. It's just offline because there's nothing stopping you from going into training mode, setting the other controller to player 2, and basically playing matches with these characters.
Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, no, I've probably in just fighting games and DLC, just because I fucking hate looking at locked character portraits on character select screens. I've probably put in like $400 to $500 in just characters for fighting games that I don't even play anymore, or that I would then like the amount of times I bought BlazBlue characters and then 2 years later a new version would come out that already had those included amongst other DLC characters is so asinine, and I do it every time.
How many versions of Super Sonico do you have on Nitro Plus blasters, you piece of shit?
Sonico's included, so. But I bought the 2 DLC characters, the Senran Kagura girl and the girl from Arcana Heart.
Oh well, okay, it's Senran
And they're
Kagura.
fun, but
Senran
that game
Kagura
sucks.
Senran Kagura gets the seal of approval.
I didn't buy all the
You know what
characters in
game
that.
comes out on March 6th? Final Fantasy 15 for the PC. You know what else comes out on March 6th? Senran Kagura Peach Beach Splash. Split tits.
Yeah. Why would you buy Final Fantasy? Really, honestly, that's at the end of the day. In conclusion, as long as your DLC has big anime titties, you're fine.
You're probably
People
gonna
will buy it. They'll be all right with it.
Mike, I'm going to give you a solid idea here. I think you need to take a pair of giant silicone tits and attach it to a dreadnought and just let me fly it into space directly in the direction of the opposing team. Is that something we can work on? Is that something you can potentially do for me as a solid?
Not even a little bit, dude.
Oh, all right. Well, I mean, it was worth a shot.
It's the Hipsters on Purpose sponsorship. It's just this horrible...
It just spells it out.
Yeah. It's shaped like the fighter jet that Kirito flies.
No. No, stop.
All right. Last time I'll bring it back.
Oh, man.
But yeah, it all comes down to what players value, and it varies so wildly from player to player that like.
But are we all in agreement about the competitive nature though? Because I feel like that's inherently like something that everybody can agree on.
That's a tough one. It depends. So I'll actually give a thought to this regarding like champions, like or any character that would come out. If that's part of like your monetization, like if you expect that if people have the ability to purchase it with real currency, there's probably a reason behind that. It's probably that they get a certain chunk of their revenue from new character releases.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that characters.
Like if a character comes out like OP, like obviously that's a really massive problem. Like a good example would be if a character came out with like a 55 or 60% win rate. That's just insane. But if a player comes out with a 49% win rate, which seems good on paper, that might. I'm not saying that I know numbers, but I could easily theorize that would drastically affect revenue, like in a really negative way.
Mm-hmm.
Like 50.5% might be the magical number. You know what I mean? Like it's not like 50% is not going to be a perfect. What's it called? Like people, it's not that you want a character to be broken. It's you don't want players to think that a character sucks on release.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if they think it's overpowered, obviously it's going to have like problems as far as, you've basically just created a situation that you need a new character, which honestly kind of sucks when we're talking about meta. But the last thing you want is this character blows, it super underperforms, and it's at launch. That's gonna have a pretty decent impact on revenue.
That's got to be such an interesting thing to think about when you talk about like the Overwatch team or the League of Legends team or just teams in general that work with like, if not character based, like they have a competitive aspect that embodies some kind of meta, and like how do you go from concept to development to finally release, and then realize that the kit you created is inherently flawed, like to an outrageous extent. I think a good example of that would be probably Moira right now. Or no, not Moira, Sombra. Moira's fine. Sombra in Overwatch was for a very long time super situational.
Yeah.
If good at all. Like her damage was really low. Her translocator ability just paled in comparison to everybody else's at the time. And her ultimate was super good, but the amount of busy work you had to do, the amount of actual work you had to do in comparison to get a Genji or a Tracer in order to get Sombra to actually work. I don't know what they did with her lately. Maybe they didn't even do anything at all.
Walls is
Who?
what Popcorn told me.
What, Sombra?
Sombra can now see through walls any character that is under 100% health.
Oh, shit. Oh, so she can focus in on those characters. Okay. All right, and I think they might have buffed her damage values, because last time I played her, she was killing. I was killing a lot more people. I don't know. Maybe it's a mental thing.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't played Overwatch in a while, but it's got to be a weird, because internal testing, as opposed to the whole PTR thing. Yeah, that's why I always feel like PTR is such a valuable resource, if possible, to keep up with for a lot of developers on games like that, because it's just hey, Doomfist is kind of fucking crazy right now.
Yeah, he's
Maybe
kind of fun. Make him not fun.
Oh, they did that, did they?
Yeah.
That's a whole other conversation where the Overwatch team just can't figure out what meta they want their characters to follow.
But see, that was absolutely instrumental into why Skullgirls turned out as good as it did, is because it had its endless beta where you could play the characters when they were still just sketches. Big Bang would just be a dumb drawing that looked like he was cut out of paper, but along every step of the way, they knew exactly what was too powerful, what wasn't strong enough, where the characters sat, and they could kind of balance as they go. And the people who downloaded it usually were people who wanted to give that kind of feedback and who were in a position where the feedback they were giving was I don't want to say actually valuable, but it was stuff that could be trusted to be, knowledgeable enough.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking so much about characters. The point when you mentioned paid content being affecting compatibility, if there's a new character comes out and you buy that character and I can't buy that character, you still need to learn a new character and play that character differently. The thing that I think is egregious is when it's a weapon that doesn't change how you play the game, it just has bigger numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's me and you were both playing Ryu, but because you paid $20
because you bought the $6 revolver DLC,
you got
and Ryu pulls out the Glock or something.
Your Hadoken now does 200 damage, whereas mine only does 100.
Yeah,
that's where it that's a hypothetical. But when you look at games like recently, Battlefront 2, I think had the problem where stuff you would get in the loot box would just objectively make you a better player.
Yeah, progression was tied to the actual idea of...
And the game was balanced around it.
Yeah, my gun fires better and faster than your gun now. You're fucked. That's it. Just buy
even
the game,
beyond,
asshole.
you have to pay for Darth Vader in a loot box. Beyond that, which, whatever. People have talked about that enough. It's the buying something that makes you better without having to put any more work in. Whereas the people who are putting in the work, who maybe necessarily can't buy something, are now not as competitively viable just because they didn't buy the good gun that does better. You always need a balance there where it's okay, the gun does more damage, but doesn't shoot as fast.
Yeah.
You don't make a fully automatic sniper that fires like a shotgun.
Yeah,
and charge $20 for it, and then it.
They made a fucking Millionaires Playboy Club for that game. That's what that game was. You needed to pay what was it? It was either 400 or 4,000. I know it's a giant leap, but I know that it was a very large amount of money you had to spend. In order to, it's either you had to spend years of your time to unlock everything that was absolutely going to make you competitive in Battlefront 2, or you had to fucking spend way too much money.
Mm-hmm.
So Yeah, I feel like when I'm talking about competitiveness, that's what I'm mainly referring to. But like, I guess League and MOBAs in general are very weird.
It's a weird genre.
Weird
for sure.
genre for that, because for me, you're like, yeah, I know mechanical skill. I'll buy the Jinx, but I'll get outplayed by a fucking Tristana at any day because I'm bad and don't know how to deal with the goddamn jump. But like, if we're on the same mechanical skill and my character just does more damage than your character inherently because my kit's better.
Yeah.
Like that's where I kind
But
of
even
like
certain kits counter certain kits. It's like if you bought Jinx and they released a character who had pretty much the same kit,
but
as
she
Jinx,
did more damage.
did more damage,
you
attacked
bought the
faster.
thing. Yeah.
It just that character is objectively better in every.
You could only get it with like RP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just don't like the presence of that in general. Even if you could earn something like that in game, like if you could earn the 200% Hadoken in game, I think that I just wouldn't like that in general. I think I would just like it to be equal playing grounds, and I don't know, man. Monster Hunter's really kind of ruined it other games for me. Like it's content rich. It allows you to do whatever you want to do.
But it also doesn't have a PvP. So
it
it's hard
doesn't.
to gauge
No.
it against other stuff.
Yeah, and it is. It's a Japanese Warframe.
Yeah.
It's a Japanese Warframe at the end of the day. It's it's a $60 title where you pay $60 and it's like, hey, do you want a game for the rest of the fucking year? Here you go.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Well, this has been. Is there anything else that you want to say, Mike? Because we're gonna start shutting down pretty soon.
Probably have something in the back of my head that I'm going to think about in 5 minutes, but otherwise, not really. There's so much stuff, like talking about monetization in video games is something that like you can talk about for hours. It's so easy to go, yeah, this is good and this isn't. But seriously, it really comes down to player perception and player habit. Something that people might say a lot of bad things about on Twitter doesn't mean that it's actually like causing negative impacts on revenue. Like if something for example is pay to win, people are gonna spend money on it.
Oh yeah,
I'm not saying that's a good thing, but like you're the best thing that you can possibly do as a consumer, and I do this as well. Like make decisions with your money when you buy things. Like think about the content that you're getting back. If you think inherently that there is something wrong with the thing that you are purchasing it and you purchase it anyways, that's not going to help change the nature of monetization in games for the better. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Be a part of the protest. Like if you think that something is wrong, boycott it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there is one thing I do want to mark on, because there is a question that's I'm sure it's interesting. My eyes are fucked up right now. It's Mr. Ace over there. What is he saying?
He says, "What do you guys think about sports games not repeating every year like a COD? Will they ever learn, or is it just money?"
They'd have to repeat every year. In fact, there's a fantastic exchange that is it's most simultaneously the most wholesome exchange I've ever seen between two people, and the most like damning of a fucking side of an industry is the Philadelphia Eagles during the Super Bowl. I forget the player in question, but he ran and he almost got a touchdown, but he got fucking caught right before, like right in the 30. And he comes up and he goes, "Man, they're gonna change my speed to a 70 on Madden." Straight up. It's just out there. It's just like they're gonna make you a slow piece of shit on Madden. Like it's just back and forth. He's like, "Man, you gotta hurt my feelings like that." It was the most wholesome exchange.
That's really funny.
But it's like, unfortunately, I don't think sports games are the kinds of games that would benefit from having an extra year of development. Only because the idea of a sports game is you are there to play it every year.
Yeah.
You are constantly getting updates. Like it's not like COD, right? Like COD has a whole, everything else is different. Like but there's always new sports, there's always new teams, new members, new rules being added at every single fucking juncture.
Me and Pop were talking about this the other night. I think sports games would heavily benefit from, well, not benefit, but like I think a games as a service model for a sports games in particular would definitely, like, it would work. They probably, I don't know how sports games are doing, like, monetarily these past couple of years, if people are still buying. FIFA people are still buying. Cause
FIFA made $16 billion or something?
Football is still crazy.
Fucking crazy.
But, like, I don't know how sales for, like like basketball games are doing or stuff like that. And it's like the games aren't going to change year to year because guess what? How often nobody puts like modifiers into at the NFL. There's no crazy rule changes. They don't put spikes on the ball one year
God, I
just to mix
can't
it
wait.
up.
I can't wait till they put the fucking.
I can't wait for Mario
trampolines
Strikers to
in the
be like
ground.
to be like but no, sports games, again, it's a market. For you, it doesn't make sense to buy FIFA every year, but for someone where all they care about is soccer, they own a PS4 and that's the game they buy. They have their mates over for some tea and crumpets, and they play their football.
So I have
football,
I have a lot of normie friends who they were having a conversation about Madden the other day.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, like, really, it feels like what it would feel like me explaining how to make a build to them in Monster Hunter. Because it's like, well, 15 has the snapback system and blah, 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 blah. And 16 is like $13 right now, but it took away this system from 15. And blah, blah. So, like, they do change incrementally pretty drastically every year.
We're not in it enough to see the small intricacies.
Yeah.
And it's easy to say, like, oh, they added a couple more blades of grass. But, you know, system-wise, they do change stuff. But also, I'm kind of grossed by sports games because I think you shouldn't have loot boxes in a soccer game.
No.
Why are you getting players from a loot box? That just confuses me.
Bringing it back. Gold Ronaldo. Here we go.
What sports games need is they need, like, actual fantasy team DLC. Like, you buy the Star Wars team and you play.
Oh, fuck yeah. Absolutely.
Just put in the fucking dream matches.
Yes. Bring back NFL Blitz.
Bring back.
Dude, I was actually holding my breath specifically to say, dude, guys, like NFL Blitz. That shit is
NFL Blitz is good.
Yeah, I actually work with one of the guys who worked on several NFL Blitz titles.
No shit.
Yeah. No, like the games industry is actually really tiny. It's actually really tiny. I know probably someone from almost every major developer at this point, and I've been in the industry less than 5 years. It doesn't take long.
They've been making moves.
Like, you know, someone who knows somebody else. Everybody knows somebody.
Oh yeah, I bet trade events are just. I mean, even the TwitchCon thing, like going to the Nexon party, and like everybody knows who everybody is. It's very strange to be on the outside looking in, and then like even potentially like putting ourselves in a situation where it's like, oh hey, guy I know from a really prolific fucking company. Like, holy shit.
I'm guy in bedroom who yells at your game.
Perfect example. At TwitchCon, me, Bro Team, and Lyle are all walking to another party, and we happen upon the guy who does the verifications for Twitter. who Lyle knows and goes, hey, can you verify me? He goes, yo, give me an email. I got you. Like just randomly walking in the street, the guy whose job it is to be like, you're the dude to talk to be the big dick OG on Twitter.
To get that big old...
To get that check.
That big check
mark. That big old check mark. And it's like, oh, well, he's just some dude walking around just having a good time. Fuck it. Like, on the streets of L.A. or South Beach, wherever the fuck it was. Not South Beach.
Dude, we're all
Long
people. Like, as strange as it is to say, like, developers are people, man. Like, seriously.
Although, yeah. I did think the Twitter verifications thing was some automated thing, though. I didn't know there was just like a one or like a team. I didn't know there was just like one guy who did.
Well, I'm sure he's in charge of a team, but like when he was explaining to me, it was like that guy is the guy you asked for Twitter verification.
Oh, cool.
So I was like, oh, okay, well, shit. I'll keep a note of that. Cool if that'll ever happen. But you know, sports games are that's a whole nother can of worms that we can just.
What's another one? NBA Jam.
Oh, no, fuck, what was it? Is it Jam?
Yeah, NBA Jam.
Yeah,
in fact,
the one with the big heads.
Straight up, someone who just started working with us is like his like instructor like made some of the effects of like the on fire effect.
Yeah.
Super Nintendo. He's like, oh yeah, he designed that. All it is
that hero.
It's like, shit, man.
The Mode 7 motherfucker.
It's easy, I think, for like people to be on the outside to not necessarily see the value of like the changes. Like someone like me, for example, I'm not gonna readily know the different changes from Madden year to year. But if I can talk about like NBA Jam or NFL Blitz, like I'm all about it.
Yeah, Sega Soccer Slam. I've been playing with a lot of my film buddies because they're big soccer fans.
Yeah,
and that is the NFL like Blitz of soccer games. It's some weird Sega thing where all the characters are these frankly horrible stereotypes of everybody.
Oh, so it's
And
like,
it's
like Windjammers.
so much fun.
Like the
No.
Windjammers of the football.
No, because
world.
Windjammers was kind of like people were from places, but like
Yeah, all right.
I love Windjammers. That's the best sports game ever made. Is
Windjammers. Fucking Windjammers is the goddamn best.
I still need to buy.
Hey, do you want to make a game about
remaster.
Ultimate Frisbee? Fuck yes, I do.
Oh.
Oh, man. So, solid podcast. Once again, I want to shout out to Mr. Mike. Mike, if you want to do some shilling as we are currently leaving the thing, just tell us what you're working on, anything you want to shout out, anything you want to do.
No, just game development is pretty fucking fun. So if that's your forte, like, do what you can to get in it. Like, I actually just spoke to a number of people today. Like, I have a shit ton of sticky notes at my desk, and every single one of them is a piece of work that I have to do. I just turned to one of my colleagues, and I was just like, dude, I am so happy right now. And he just looked at me like, and he was like, what the fuck are you talking about? See every single one of these sticky notes? I have so much fucking shit to do, and I make video games. And that's how I ended my friend. So if if games are for you, like, fucking get in and try it and see if it is, because there's nothing better than doing what you love.
You know that when Lyle was talking about being subtweeted in real life? That's kind of what I feel right now with what Michael said, because Michael used to give me so much fucking shit. All the time. I remember him yelling at me in a drunken stupor about, why aren't you in video games?
I heard the idea. You told me, and I was like, yeah, just do it. That's what this podcast is really for. It's to jump off and do real things.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is.
That's it. This is going to be our Evangelion until we can jump off on our Shin Godzilla.
Which one of us is... I'll be Hideaki, you be Anno. We'll be his split personalities.
Alrighty.
Anyways, guys, hey, thanks. It's your boy Phil with your boy Max.
Yes.
Once again, thanks for Mr. Mike coming out. Go play his company's game, Dreadnought. It's pretty fantastic. Space arcadey now. You've got big old ships in space, and you fuck up each other's ships.
I definitely need to check it out. I've been meaning to.
Yeah,
Just haven't
super
gotten
good. It's on
around to it.
PS4, PC, all that nonsense. And hey, there's an episode 3 of a podcast. I can't believe we actually made it to 3 episodes.
Yeah,
It's not
the
dead yet.
podcast is definitely going. It's just the schedule is a little long.
Yeah,
we
well.
got some stuff to iron out. But again, follow us on YouTube. Hipsters on
The
Purpose.
link is now, if you're watching on Twitch, the link is now down at the bottom.
Okay.
So it's taken the place of the old accidental hipster thing. So there's no problem. Just go ahead, click on it, subscribe, please. We appreciate it. Or don't. The idea of content creators yelling at you to subscribe to them for no other reason than because you like them, hey, that's kind of shitty. But hey, we deserve it. So.
In that same vein, if you're watching to us or you're listening to us on YouTube, the Twitch link, so you can watch us live. Normally, we Fridays now.
We Fridays.
We
fuck it.
Fridays every other
Fridays
week.
only.
So tune in next time where we'll probably talk about video games again.
Maybe have another guest. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see what happens.
But and look forward to the Sword Art Online video, hopefully dropping Thursday.
Don't look forward to it.
Look forward to it on Thursday, but expect it on Saturday. Well, that's it. Bye.
Time to take a nap.
Time to.
It's good.
I'm not doing
it's
that.
good. No, let me have it.
No, I'm ending the stream. That's it.